Friday Night Funkin' Indie Cross. This is one of the biggest, most popular, most high-effort mods out there. In fact, for a while it was the king of that title. And then Mario Madness version 2 happened and you can have your debates on which mod is better, but Indie Cross is at least top 3 of the most big and popular. That definitely comes down to its art style, cutscenes, voice acting, story, and, of course, most importantly, the soundtrack. This is one of the most tricky soundtracks for me to rank, mainly because there's a lot of things here that I recognize are pretty good. In fact, the majority of this soundtrack is good. But I've got personal preferences when it comes to some of these songs, and I know my opinions are not going to be liked by everybody. In fact, the beauty about this mod in particular is that every single song, except one, has at least some fans and some supporters, and unfortunately those supporters might see their favorite song get ranked low. So I just want to go ahead and get out a disclaimer. I do like this soundtrack, and even the low songs of the list, except one, are pretty good. Just comes down to personal preference for me. In fact, because this video is probably going to be noticed more than a lot of my others, I'll like to go ahead and just clarify how I personally rank things in the tier list system that I do. G tiers are awful, they have nothing redeeming about them, they are straight trash, nobody defends them, there is no redeeming qualities. F tiers. They're not very good. They're pretty bad, all things considered, and the only reason they aren't a G tier is because, well, I mean, I guess there's one or two redeemable things about the song, but barely anything. A D tier is a pretty bad song, but it either has potential to be better, or it's just really meh and boring and mid. C tiers are okay. These usually are songs that I just personally don't prefer, but they have some pretty good moments. They're just not the kind of song I personally love. B tiers are songs that I like and I can enjoy from time to time, but they're not my favorites and they do have pretty glaring issues. A tiers are similar, except just I like them more than their downsides are able to bother me. And S tiers are just incredible songs. And then of course there's SS tier, which is just its own level of just peak. Now with all that being said, most of this soundtrack is, again, pretty good, but you know what? No more stalling, let's just go ahead and get into the worst song in this mod. FNF is at dead last. Literally nobody ever is surprised. The song intentionally is trying to be bad, and it does so to such a degree that I have an actual genuine headache every time I listen to this song. So I'm just gonna get through this as fast as possible because, it's bad. This song is a joke and it's trying to be as bad as possible. GG, you did exactly what you were trying to do, and yet surprisingly the instrumental is the only redeemable part about this. Boyfriend sounds alright from time to time, but I don't know what to call him. Sans' vocals are so bad, it's just, Moving on, bad song, everyone knows it's bad. If you're the one genuine fan of this song, I apologize, but like, don't try to convince me that this song is actually good, because it's not. It's just not. And here we have Sensational. Okay, I know I gotta explain myself here, so first things first, the instrumental is actually kind of neat. I like how many Undertale sound effects are used throughout the entire instrumental. They don't feel too intrusive, they feel like they flow really nicely, and the pacing of the song is actually really good. Tenzu made this song, who's mostly known for making the Tabby songs, My Battle, Last Chance, Genocide, you know, those classic songs. So I had a lot of high hopes for their music for this mod. And I'll be honest, they kind of underwhelm with Sensational and Bad Time. I'll talk about Bad Time later, trust me. But for Sensational specifically, My biggest problem with Sans' vocals. I don't know why, but they sound so robotic, especially when you compare them to pretty much every other song. I just don't like how they sound in Sensational. And Boyfriend also sounds off. Again, the melodies for this song are decent, and the pacing is pretty good, and instrumental is fine, but I'm just not really a huge fan of the way that both Boyfriend and Sans sound. However, there is something pretty neat about this song, and it's in the gameplay. Gameplay barely factors into my opinions on these songs, but for this one in particular, I do really like how they handle it. If you choose to attack Sans, then during the big ol' beat drop, which is also really underwhelming, then it'll switch into, well, this, which then will lead you into Burning in Hell as the third song. However, if you choose to just be chill with Sans, because, you know, why wouldn't you? Then you get Final Stretch. That's a really cool bit of gameplay. But just as a song, this one underwhelms. Especially when you compare it to version 2, it is not even close to a contest. Version 2 is so much better, oh my gosh. Goose! I remember really not liking this song the first time I heard it. And I guess I had some negative association due to the fact that the same person who made this song also made Sinnes. So, you know, I had absolutely zero expectations. And yet, surprisingly, shockingly, the song's actually kind of good. Not great or anything, but an actually decent song. In fact, this is a good joke song. I won't even lie. The instrumental is actually really nice. It complements the song very well. Boyfriend sounds good. The pacing is pretty good, all things considered. And then there's the elephant in the room. Goose is chromatic, which is just honking. But all things considered, the chromatic for the goose isn't half bad. Sure, it's pretty one note most of the time, but there are some parts where the goose's chromatic changes up, and I like it. The overall melody is really strong, shockingly enough. It's just a solid song, all things considered. Although that being said, yeah, the goose's chromatic being just honking sounds presents its own little downsides. And my biggest problem for the song is that it's definitely too long. In my opinion, I feel like the song should have only been about maybe a minute and a half or so. I feel like this kind of joke song needed to be a lot shorter. You could argue that it being longer makes it more engaging and that you just want to listen to more of it. I get that, but also I feel like with such a silly song, by the time that it gets about halfway through, you feel like you've just put the song on loop. I feel like the overall melody doesn't change enough for it to warrant an entire repeat. So, you know, it's a little bit long, and I wish the goose's chromatic was better, because I feel like the potential for this song is really high. I like to think of this as the Race Traders of Indie Cross. Starts as a funny little joke song with a pretty bad chromatic, all things considered. But with just some tweaking, it could be super good. Although that being said, knowing how the FNF fandom is, they're probably going to hate on whatever version 2 happens because the chromatic won't be the same joke song that they remember. Because, you know, nostalgia blinds people. Thanks! This is where one of my biggest hot takes is gonna come in. Nightmare Run, the final song of Bendy's week. Alright, so Bendy's vocals a lot of people have a mixed opinion on. I can understand that. His vocals are a little bit strange. I think they're pretty fitting for just the normal standard Ink Demon, because at the time we didn't really have a voice to go off of for Bendy. Dark Revival's given us a voice now, but for this mod, his vocals are... well, I don't even really know how to explain them, but I kinda like them. They're unique and they're fun. Now, besides all the chromatic talk, what about the song itself? Well, the instrumental is... I mean, it's a good instrumental. Not great, but it's good. The melody themselves playing... Okay, I'm gonna be honest, this song gets so repetitive. I wanna like this song. I really do. But... here I go. Here's where I'm gonna say something that I know is probably gonna be very unpopular. This is just a worse version of Mario Madness's Demise. And you know what's crazy? I actually really like Demise. Sure, I shoot my shots at it and kind of bully it from time to time, because it does have one really bad part. But for the most part of the song, I really like Demise. It's strong and solid. Nightmare Run doesn't ever reach that same highlight that Demise does. I just get bored of this song, honestly. The main melody is good, but it's used so often, I feel like it's the only part of the song that really sticks out to me, besides its ending, which is really good. And then there's the visuals, which, I mean, okay, the climb up is kinda neat, I guess, and the part with the ink machine visually is gorgeous. I really like it. But these songs aren't ranked on how pretty they are, the songs are ranked on their music. And Nightmare Run just gets so predictable and... I'm really not a huge fan of it. I definitely can see this song being really good though. And I'm very hopeful for version 2 really pulling in as much as it can, because I bet you that with a better chromatic for Bendy, and better pacing and maybe not repeating the same melody 5 times in a row throughout this song, it would be better. But I want to end this on a positive note by saying that the ending is really good. I love how it ends, it's super strong. It's a little repetitive maybe, but I don't feel like it's too identical to the rest of the song, and it works well for me. Alright, add it to the pile of hot takes. I don't love Bad Time. And yet everyone else seems to really like it. At least, for the most part. When it comes to the Nightmare songs, Devil's Gambit is absolutely more popular by no competition. But I still see a lot of people comment about Bad Time and how good it is and how on par it is with Devil's Gambit. I disagree a lot. Tenzold also made this one similarly to Sensational, and you know what? Similar problems apply. And it's in Sans' vocals. I like that they are changed up from the normal Sans chromatic. That's good. But they don't sound great in this song. The first, well, minute or so of the song is really weak, at least in my opinion. None of the melodies stick all that well, and I just kind of feel like it's standard. And the biggest problem that I have with the song is it's instrumental of all things. I just... something that I really don't like is how many sound effects are used in the instrumental. They don't feel as natural as they do in Sensational. They feel kind of forced. And yet, I'm still ranking this song higher than Sensational, so where's the redeeming factor for this one? Well, other than the fact that the visuals are beautiful as they are for all the Nightmare songs, and that doesn't really change a lot for ranking, so it's not that. No, what saves this song for me is its second half sounding actually pretty strong, and the ending is really nice. It goes in so well. I won't lie, yeah, the ending is really good. It's strong on its own and stands out pretty well. I just have problems with the instrumental and the opening. If both of those things were stronger, the song probably would have ranked higher, but as it stands, I really wanted to like this song. I really did, but I just can't. I really don't feel like I'm that invested in the song as a whole until the ending starts to kick in. Boyfriend also sounds pretty plain and generic here. I feel like more could have been done with him. Snake Eyes! Alright, I actually could jam with this song, it's not bad. I start with that, but I already can see the comments coming. Why did I rank this song so low? Alright, time to get into my biggest complaint that applies to not only Snake Eyes, but also Technicolor Tussle and Knockout, which I'll cover later. Cuphead's chromatic. Look, I'm not gonna lie, his chromatic ain't bad. It's a decent chromatic in a vacuum. But I'm trying to apply this to Cuphead? It's just weird. Why is this his chromatic? It's just, it doesn't, I don't really get it, especially when you compare it to his cutscene voice, which sounds so different, it's jarring.
Now if I were a crazy portal opening, where would I be? Well, it's no portal, but looks like I found the screw loose.
Again, let me make this clear. The chromatic isn't bad in a vacuum, I just don't think it works on Cuphead, which is why I'm glad that he's getting a new voice in version 2, or not a new voice, a new chromatic. It sounds a lot more fitting for Cuphead. This old chromatic has its charm, I guess, but it's just not Cuphead. All that being said, what about Snake Eyes itself? Honestly, I have very little to say about the song. The instrumental is decent, the melodies are pretty alright, and pacing's good. I mean, Mike Gino is a good composer through and through. This song is as low as it is specifically because I'm not a huge fan of swing music. There's some that I like, but for the most part, this type of beat just really isn't my thing. This song is still decent. I do give it a listen every once in a while, it's not bad. This is just personal preference, not really my cup of tea. But if you like it, good for you. It is a good song. And here we have Final Stretch. I used to really not like this song. I just didn't care about it. And now that I'm looking back on it, yeah, I definitely did not treat this song with as much respect as I should have. This one's actually pretty good. The overall pacing does feel a little bit dragged out from point to point, but the majority of the song sounds nice. And I do really like Sans' chromatic in this song as well. Again, Sensational is really the song where I just don't like Sans' chromatic, because in the other songs it sounds better. The melodies used for the opening are okay. There's nothing super crazy going on here, but it's fine as an intro. Honestly, it's probably one of the weakest points of the song for me. But then you start getting into more Undertale references. I'm not gonna name every reference I hear because Final Stretch in particular has a lot. But this whole segment that leads into the waterfall bit is really nice, and the waterfall segment itself is practically flawless. I adore the melodies used here, and just visually, this... I don't know what words I can use. Visually, this is gorgeous. the way that the lighting of the lake looks, and the blue colors mixed with the black background, and the way that... Oh my gosh. I adore the visuals for the waterfall segment. And you know what? The Megalovania reference here really does work, and I like it. This waterfall segment is what saved the song from landing any lower. Because once the waterfall segment is over, this next portion of the song kinda just feels like more of the same from the intro. It's better than the opening, for sure, but it also does feel kind of lacking. It's just alright. And then the ending comes in. I like the ending, I like how Sans sounds, and the instrumental has a very nice wind down. Yeah, it's pretty decent overall. It's a little underwhelming at points, but the good moments of the song definitely save it for me in the end.
I said, can I get an amen?
I don't care what anyone says, I'm just really happy that Sammy got his own song. Sammy is, unironically, one of my favorite characters from the original Bendy and the Ink Machine. I love how mysterious he is, and his actions throughout the story. I mean, yeah, he sure plays a small part, but I love how he's handled. His voice is weirdly soothing, but also gives this intimidating factor to him. And I like his design. So much more human than pretty much anything else down there. But enough talking about why I love Sammy Lawrence. Song time. Ritual is actually pretty catchy. I like it quite a bit. The instrumental is undoubtedly my favorite part about this entire song because it's so good and fits Sammy like a glove. It's perfect. But then there's the thing that everybody doesn't like. Or at least, a lot of people don't like. Sammy's voice is too quiet. I 100% agree. Sammy's voice is way too quiet. And I get that it's totally in character for Sammy Lawrence to be quiet. I mean, yeah, no duh. Anyone that's played the original game knows that this is a quiet guy. But I feel like for the sake of music, his chromatic should have been louder because it's almost impossible to hear him half the time. The parts where you can hear him is very nice and fits the song super well. And the melodies are strong here. I can overlook its big glaring issue here because its potential is through the roof, and if the chromatic change is fixed up, this would be one of my favorites from the mod for sure. I love how he throws the axe at you at the end of the song. That's just funny. Here we have Satanic Funkin'. Alright, I'll be honest. When I first saw that the devil was even in this mod, I was like, oh, whoa, that's actually really cool. Like, yeah, it's just kind of nice to see him, and all of his sprite work is well, I guess I could say that all of the sprite work is really good throughout the entire mod, but the Devil's sprites in particular are some of my favorite sprites in the mod. I don't know why, but they just convey his energy so well. His chromatic is very nice. The instrumental, although pretty one note for the most part, is really strong. The overall melody? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a nice beat, doesn't last for too long, and doesn't feel too short. Innuendo made a pretty good song, all things considered. But, I do have a pretty big issue with the song as a whole. This is one of the most repetitive songs in the mod, at least in my book. I don't hate that too much because, again, the overall beat is pretty strong, but I feel like I just end up listening to the same rhythm 3 times over. It's not that bad because, again, the melody is still very catchy, but I just wish there was more here, especially when it comes down to the instrumental. Because the instrumental is probably the most lacking part of the entire song. A stronger instrumental and a little bit more variety in the overall melody, and this song probably would have been an S tier. And now we have Whoopee. This is a very underappreciated song in the mod. I love it a lot. It's not my favorite, but I have so much love for the song. Of course, the intro being an entire reference to Sans's "I wonder why people don't use their strongest attack first." Yeah, like, that's funny. That is a great reference, and in song form no less, that's not easy to do. I have a lot of respect for it. And after this intense little intro, which also sounds really nice musically, this entire beat is just so chill. I love it a lot. It fits his Sans character pretty much perfectly. Sans' vocals are at their best in this song, maybe rivaled with Burning in Hell. I love how they sound here. It's just so good. And I like how the beat doesn't stay too slow for the majority of the song. It does have a nice part where it picks up. And of course, there's a couple nice little references here and there. As usual, every single Sans song has a Megalovania reference, so of course Whoopee's got one too, because, you know, why wouldn't it? It's kind of Sans' thing, I get it. The pacing of the song just really works for me. I adore it. I don't dislike slow songs, and this one just hits the perfect vibe that it's going for while staying true to Sans' character. Instrumental's nice, it's just a very good one overall. Terrible Sin. This song often gets pointed out as the weakest of Bendy's songs, and although I don't necessarily agree with that, I do kind of understand where people are coming from. I used to be one of the people that really did not like Terrible Sin. It's grown on me since then, obviously, but now I gotta explain, how did it grow on me? Well, first I'm actually gonna go ahead and just get my criticisms out of the way. The opening is really not good. Boyfriend and Bendy don't sound in tune, at least not as much as they should be. The melody is okay, but it's really lacking and doesn't sound all that great, and the instrumental feels pretty weak for the most part. Yeah, this opening is definitely what gave a lot of people a bad impression, but then Bendy's beat drop kicks in and I'm reminded why I like this song. Bendy sounds so good during that beat drop, and I mean, I can't help it, the melody just stays good throughout the rest of the song from that point on. It does get a little bit repetitive, I guess, but I don't mind it too much. And then we get this nice, slow part of the song. Bendy's vocals sound really good here. I can't even begin to imagine how incredible this song would sound with his new updated chromatic. Because, oh, Terrible Sin is going places. I can already see it. The song kind of lays a good groundwork, and it has so much more potential. Just, the opening absolutely needs to be reworked, because it is not very good, and it really ranked this song lower because of it. But you know what? The beat drop, the slower part of the song, and the ending is just so good. It redeems the song enough for me to rank it as high as I am. Good job, Terrible Sin. I'm sorry you get so much hate, you don't deserve it. Imminent Demise. Alright. I really like this song. There's two distinct halves of the song. First half, it's the Bendy cutout. Yeah, there's no notes being played, no duh. I mean, what's a cutout gonna do? Start singing randomly? No! That's stupid. Instead, it's the instrumental in its entirety. Well, for the most part. The pianist in the background during this section, oh, so catchy. It captures that whole tune style really well. And Boyfriend is just mimicking what he hears. Basically just singing to himself. It's really nice and catchy and very different from the rest of the mod, and I like it a lot. And it doesn't last for too long either, which is also nice. And then we get something we almost never get in FNF. A full cutscene in the middle of the song. That's just really cool. The animation looks very nice, and it doesn't really factor into my ranking. Then there's the second half of Imminent Demise. The tune style is ditched and in favor of more of an orchestral feeling, which fits the original Bendy and the Ink Machine soundtrack. So I love that it goes for that. I mean, I guess that kind of applies to all three characters, doesn't it? Cuphead has that more swing style, Sans has most of his instrumentals composed of Undertale sound effects, at least some of his songs. And then Bendy just goes full orchestra. I love it. It's very fitting. I like the dark opening for the second half. It's very much something that sounds like it would be in the original Bendy game. But it doesn't just stay slow and dark and intense. It has a very nice back and forth beat that goes through, and Bendy and Boyfriend duetting here, they sound good. And then for the ending of the song, they loop it right back, which I love when it... I love it when songs do that. It makes the whole song feel complete. And this ending is just really strong. And I wish the song didn't get slept on as much, because there's a lot here. Ooh, man, do I love Technicolor Tussle. This song gets overshadowed a lot by Knockout. I used to like this song more than Knockout before Knockout grew on me a lot. We'll get there when we get there. Talking about Technicolor Tussle now, oh my gosh, I cannot get over this instrumental. Easily, without even a contest, this is my favorite instrumental from the mod, if not one of my favorite FNF instrumentals ever. Like, I adore everything it's going for. The melody is super strong, it sounds like a fan-made Cuphead song for the original game. Knockout has a similar appeal, I'm getting ahead of myself, but Technicolor Tussle does it just incredibly well. Especially the fact that you can hear the Floral Fury instrumental in there. Oh, that's so good. What about the vocals? I mean, that should make the song better, right? I mean, yeah, I guess so. Cuphead's main melodies are sung well. It's catchy, I'll give it that much. But I'm gonna be honest, Cuphead's chromatic bothers me the most in this song in particular. I don't know why, but it just sounds too loud half the time, and it just doesn't flow as well as I think it could have. That being said though, the ending of this song is so good. This is just one of those songs where I'd rather listen to the instrumental than the final version, which doesn't almost ever happen. I feel like with a better chromatic, Cuphead really could have made this song an S tier or higher. Cause it is just, the instrumental is perfection, please. For Indie Cross version 2, don't change Technicolor Tussle's instrumental, just don't, please, because it is that good.
Shall I give you this pair?
And here we have what's going to be probably my most unpopular opinion about Indie Cross. And for once, it's not a song that everyone loves and I don't like, it's the exact opposite. This, in my opinion, is one of the most overhated FNF songs out there. Yeah, I said it, and I'm not taking it back. I really like Despair, a lot. This song took me on a bit of a roller coaster though. Because at first I was in the camp that everybody else is in. This song sucks, it's one of the worst in the mod. And now I look back on it and think, what was I doing? Because no, it really doesn't. However, to be fair, let's look at the main criticisms people have for Despair. Number 1, the constant intensity. This I guess I can sorta see, but also there are several points of the song where everything just sorta stops and lets the instrumental take a breath, if you will. And there's even some points where Boyfriend is just taking his own time with the song and it gets nice and slowed down from the intensity. So this is a bit of misinformation. I can kinda understand what people mean by constant intensity, but there's enough points in this song for it to slow down, so I disagree. Another criticism for Despair is Bendy's chromatic. This is actually something I fully agree with. There are several points in this song where Bendy's nearly impossible to hear, and it is frustrating when you're trying to listen to Bendy and you can barely hear him over the instrumental or Boyfriend. And I guess the whole 5 minutes thing is another criticism, but I don't feel like that's fully justified. Yeah, I know, I hated on Golden Vengeance a little bit because it was 6 minutes against one opponent and Despair is 5 minutes against one opponent, so what's the difference? I'll tell you the difference. Golden Vengeance relies so heavily on outside references. Despair doesn't, so you know, that's kind of my opinion on this whole thing. Plus, I love Unbeatable, and that's a 10-minute song. I'm allowed to like a song that's half that length. Now, there are some things about this song that I feel everyone seems to overlook, and I really like. I adore this song's instrumental. It is super intense and orchestrated, and the choir, oh, it is a beautiful instrumental. Honestly, after getting to listen to the instrumentals for all of these songs, Despair stood out as one of my favorites alongside Technicolor Tussle. And that's what really ended up making me like Despair so much more. Now it's my second favorite Nightmare song. Look at that. Another thing that I like is Bendy's design. Cuphead and Sans, you could argue they have better designs, but I would heavily disagree. They're just themselves, but with a different color palette at the end of the day. Bendy looks actually changed up. He's bigger, taller, skinnier. His claw-like hands are a lot more menacing, his giant smile and the glowing eye. It really adds a lot while still keeping Bendy to himself. Another thing that I really like is some of the melodies used here. When you can hear Bendy, he really does pop off at several points of the song, and it sounds incredible. There's a couple of decent duets between Boyfriend and Bendy. There's several points where the back and forth is super intense and the choir is just singing at its highest points. Yeah, I really like a lot of these elements that make Despair what it is. It's supposed to be the final battle song, so of course it's going to not only be the longest song of the mod, but also the most dramatic, the darkest, and the most intense. And that's unfortunately something I see a lot of people overlook. If I have to be one of the few people to defend Despair for what it is, that's fine. I'll defend it as much as I want to and as much as I can because it deserves it. And the ending is especially good, but of course most people don't want to listen to the ending because they're already tired of listening to the first 2 or 3 minutes because they don't have the attention span to last through the entire song, which is extremely frustrating. I'm sorry if I come off as a little mean. If you don't like Despair, that's fine, but I just heavily disagree on them. Despair is overhated and underrated, and deserves a lot more love. And if you're anything like me, I did used to dislike the song before really coming around on it. I'd suggest giving its instrumental a better chance, and you might see where I'm coming from. Because that's what saved it for me in the end. If any song in this mod took its time to grow on me, it was absolutely Devil's Gambit. This used to be one of my least favorites of the mod, and I don't even really get why. But now, yeah, I like the song quite a bit actually. It's really catchy and solid. The melody is super strong, the instrumental is kind of a bop. And you know what? Shocker of the day, but Cuphead's chromatic? I actually don't mind it in this song. It's actually fitting for this song in particular. I think that the Nightmares in general should have different chromatics than their original counterpart. Something more menacing, if you will, given how cool their designs are. And so Cuphead's chromatic here actually works for me. I really do hope in version 2 they don't make Cuphead's chromatic just, you know, the same chromatic as his initial voice that has been teased, because, like, I think the chromatic works for his nightmare phase really well. The pacing of the song is pretty strong. It does get a little bit repetitive, which, I mean, you know, it's kind of a problem with a lot of these songs, I guess. But you know what? I don't mind it too much, because as the song has grown on me more and more, the repetitiveness doesn't bother me as much as I think it used to. If they did have one big problem with this song, though, it's not necessarily how repetitive it can be, even though that is a bit of an issue. No, my biggest problem is that it just doesn't feel very Cuphead-styled. I feel like this song drops what the other three did have in charm, which was having that Cuphead style, that tune swing. And although, sure, tune isn't my favorite type of music, but it gave the Cuphead songs a lot of charm, so Devil's Gambit just sort of dropping it is a little bit of a shame. That being said, it is still a catchy song on its own right, so I'll give it that much.
I understood that reference.
Aha, when you first hear that instrumental of Build Our Machine, whoo, does it bring back some nostalgia. I love this song. It put a huge smile on my face the first time I heard it. So, where do I even begin? Well, the first half of this song is entirely a Build Our Machine take. Like, the entire melody is just straight taken from Build Our Machine. I don't mind one bit. That's one of my favorite songs ever, so getting to hear it in FNF is very nice. Especially the fact that DA Games worked on this song is even cooler. Bendy's chromatic is genuinely perfection. It is done so well, and it fits his character beautifully. I adore it. It's easily one of my favorite chromatics from this mod. Perfectly fitting, sounds really nice. Yeah, good. And the instrumental is incredibly good, and I mean, come on, how can you not adore that Build Our Machine melody playing? It's just so good. Everything about this opening half is perfect. And yet, then there's the second half, where we get Gospel of Dismay. Alright, look, I'm gonna keep it completely honest. Gospel of Dismay is a pretty mid song, in my opinion. It's one of DA Games' weaker songs that he's made. And I know that's not exactly a popular opinion, because a lot of people like that song, but me personally, I just don't care for it. It bores me. And yet, surprisingly, for Freaky Machine, it sounds way better. Like, I actually really like the melody in this version of the song. I'm kind of surprised with that. The chorus works well, the nice bits of back and forth are good. Yeah, second half works for me. Especially the instrumental. Now, I do have it ranked a little bit lower than a lot of people probably would have wanted me to. So, why? If I love this song so much, why is it so low? Well, you know how with my vs FNF 1 mod, I mentioned that Walk the Plank was as low as it is, specifically because it's entirely a cover song? Yeah, Freaky Machine suffers pretty much the same problem. It is entirely a mashup of Build Our Machine and Gospel of Dismay turned into an FNF song. It doesn't bother me that much because, again, it is just that good. But it does lose some points for me, and I just prefer the other songs over it. Still really good, though. have what is arguably one of, if not the most popular song in the mod, Burning in Hell. Alright, I really do like this song. Sans' chromatic, yeah, it works super well. And for once, I actually get to talk more about Boyfriend's chromatic. He has this nice little echo in his voice that's not too overwhelming, but it's nice and subtle, showcasing how he's possessed by Kara. Or, I don't know, the player of Undertale, if you don't want to call him Kara, even though that is exactly who that is at that point in the story, but whatever, that's my Undertale nerd in me coming out. I love the pacing for this song. The way that it starts is very nice, and it kind of gives this ominous, oh no, what have I done feeling. And then you get into the true battle of it all. Wow, and again, gameplay really doesn't factor much into this, but just this whole set of mechanics for the way that this song portrays itself is so cool. I love how intense everything feels, but this also doesn't feel too much like it's just a Megalovania remix. Which I was really worried this was gonna sound like, because I'm gonna be honest, I really don't care for Megalovania remixes. They get so boring and tired. You hear so many and they just blend together, but Burning in Hell has enough originality to it for me to like it. I like Sans and Boyfriend when they duet, it sounds very nice. And then there's the core reference that follows straight into the Megalovania reference. Okay, the Megalovania reference is actually at its best here in this song compared to every other Sans song. Like, I cannot begin to describe how intense and dramatic this song feels. I adore so much about it. And yet, it's not my favorite. Despite the fact that this song, at least in terms of the polls that I released, is the most popular vote, it's not my favorite. But why? Well, I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Megalovania remixes, and even though this song doesn't feel too much like one of those, it does have elements of those. And I can admit that melody-wise, it's not perfect. But it is still incredible, and I love it, and this wind-down ending is so well done. Burning in Hell absolutely deserves the praise that it gets. 'Cause it is just that good. Bad to the bone! You know what? I love this song. It is so catchy, and Papyrus's chromatic is incredible. It's perfect and fitting for him. The melody is really strong. The song is a bit on the short side, which is very much a shame because I would have liked more. But you know what? The short length isn't really that big of a gripe for me. I do adore it. And it's just nice letting Papyrus have a song to himself. Especially given the fact that this isn't even an Indie Cross song, technically speaking. This song is way older than Indie Cross. It was made way before then, and it was just made as a Papyrus song for Friday Night Funkin'. I'm really happy that it exists, and it's really nice getting to hear it in this mod of all things, because it's like, you wouldn't really expect it. But they put it in here anyway, and I'm so happy that they did, because this song is so catchy, and it just brings back a good amount of nostalgia for what the old FNF used to be. Everything for this song works for me, and just puts a big smile on my face every time I hear it. Sure, it is a short song, and it is rather simple, but you know what? It basically has no flaws other than it being short. Great song. Definitely criminally underrated for this mod. nobody should be surprised that Last Reel is this high. As a side note, before I get properly started with the song, I love how in the demo, the 3 songs we got were Snake Eyes, Sensational, and Last Reel. I find it kind of amusing that Snake Eyes was the first song, and it's the first song of Cuphead's week. Sensational was the second song, and it's the second song for Sans' week. And Last Reel was the third song, and it's the third song of Bendy's week. That's just, I don't know why, but that just makes me happy. There's just something about that that's really charming. Anyway, actual song now. Bendy's chromatic sounds at its best in this song, and pretty much everybody is in agreeal on that. I mean, Last Reel is the most popular of Bendy's songs, and you know what? Absolutely fair. It earned that. The main melody used here is so catchy, and it's just so... It fits so well. The instrumental actually got it changed from its original demo version, and I prefer the newer instrumental. It sounds way more intense and fits Bendy's whole style a lot better. The ending is easily one of my favorite endings from this mod. It's just incredible. Boyfriend and Bendy both sound great when duetting. The song doesn't ever feel like it's repeating itself too often. It kind of has nice little landmarks, if you will. The main melody opens up the song, then it plays around the middle, and then it finishes the song. That's good pacing, I guess. And plus, I mean, come on, it's just that good of a melody. I don't mind hearing it a few times throughout the song. If I had any big criticisms, it's that I feel like the song has a bit too many long pauses. It has 2 in particular that kind of just halt the song. The second one isn't nearly as bad because it does build up the tension really well for the final part of the song. But that first kind of drop in music right after the main melody is played its second round is a little unnecessary. Still, it's been a song that has stuck with me for a long time and has stayed one of my favorites. John Atlas made this song and this song alone for the mod. You know what? He did a really good job because it sounds just that good.
3, 2, 1, go!
The most popular song in Cuphead's week, and yeah, it's for good reason. Knockout is so good. It took me some time to really appreciate this song, but now that I do, I really was missing out. Granted, Cuphead's voice is still the same chromatic, which, I honestly feel like if Cuphead just had a more fitting chromatic, this song could have been an SS tier. Like, it really is just that good. In the meantime, I have to settle with where it's at right now. And you know what? I still love this song. The pacing is incredibly good. It has a really nice and natural flow. There's no parts of the song that ever feel like they're out of place or that they don't flow into the next part really well and smooth. The instrumental honestly sounds so much like what you would expect to hear from the Cuphead boss music. It mimics the style pretty much perfectly. There's a nice amount of tension here. Boyfriend and Cuphead have multiple moments where they're just going at it back and forth, and it sounds really nice. And the song really has this incredible amount of build-up throughout its entirety. Especially once the two start going really back and forth, cutting each other off over and over, and you feel that tension rise, and then one big old cheap shot, and Mugman's down for the count. It's a fake out. All the fake out is done so well for this song. I normally don't like fake outs, but you know what? Knockout does the fake out just right because this entire ending phase does not miss a beat. It is just... oh, I love it. This song is incredible, and like I said, I was so missing out. I don't know why I didn't click with this song sooner, because it is just... oh, it's so good. I totally see why everyone likes this song more than the others. The others are good, don't get me wrong, but Knockout just steals the show. And here we have it! Boondoggle! I love this song! Oh my gosh, it sounds so good. Where do I begin? Papyrus is still great, I love his chromatic. And Sans gets to join him, and Sans sounds really good here. I adore this little opening. It feels very Undertale-like, and oh, it captures the tone of this song very well. Upbeat and silly and fun. Exactly what Papyrus and Sans are as a whole. I love how Papyrus and Sans sound when they're duetting, and Boyfriend's mimicking both sets of vocals, which sounds really nice. The entire beat here is just so well captured. And I love Sans throughout the song. Not necessarily for the melodies he's bringing to the table, because most of the time he's backing up Papyrus, which is very in character. He doesn't really want to take Papyrus' spotlight, he just wants to help him out when he can, while also being as much of a lazybones as physically possible. Hence him falling asleep. And then he has this one little bit where he just kinda does a little bit of a solo, which in my eyes is just Papyrus telling him to do it, because of course Papyrus would tell him to do it. And then he starts playing on his own head with the bones. Oh, that is not only charming and catchy, but it's just so fun. That's the reason that this song is entirely my favorite, is because it's just so fun. And then the final ending pop-off with Sans and Papyrus both going completely in. Sans doesn't fully duet everything Papyrus sings, just the big parts, allowing those moments to be so much more impactful. I cannot begin to describe how much I adore this song. It captures everything that I wanted it to. Great song. Alright. And, I guess I'm done talking about Indie Cross now. Alright, well... Hold it! What you mean you done? I mean I'm done. Nuh-uh. Oh yeah? What have I missed? That was all the songs. I got them all. Well, actually you did miss one song. What? What are you two on about? You missed Crossed Out. Oh, right, Crossed Out, yeah. I don't know if that song's gonna end up making it in version 2 or not, so I wasn't gonna talk about it yet.
Too bad, talk about it now.
Or what? You guys really do not. You don't intimidate me, you know that, right? Yeah, we know. But, like, you're gonna get a bunch of comments telling you, like, a lot.
He's right, you know.
Fine, I'll talk about Crossed Out.
3, 2,
Well, since I'm here, guess I'm talking about Crossed Out now. Gameplay's fan-made, by the way. Just thought I'd go ahead and get that out of the way. Anyways, Cuphead's phase. Gonna be completely honest, this intro is weak. It's just sort of standard and kinda eh. Then the instrumental kicks in and both Boyfriend and Cuphead's vocals come more into focus, and yeah, this is when the song starts to pick up. I don't dislike Cuphead's phase, it's actually decent all things considered. Cuphead's chromatic is definitely better due to it sounding a lot more like how you would expect Cuphead to sound and not like some vintage static broken glass, which is kind of what the original sounds like. Okay, maybe that's a bit mean. Again, Cuphead's chromatic is not bad, just doesn't fit in. The instrumental is pretty strong and the melodies overall work for Cuphead's phase. Overall, it's definitely good. It's not my favorite, but it's standard enough for me to like it. I think it lasts a little bit longer than it should though. I don't know, maybe like an extra 30 seconds, a bit too much. Then there's Sans. Now, I want to go ahead and just say this here. Mike Gino made Crossed Out specifically for testing out the vocals, and then fleshed it out into a full song. So, my question is... Okay, well, like, I get Cuphead and Bendy, they have completely new chromatics. Sans really doesn't. His chromatic sounds almost the same. I guess it's definitely different than the one Tenzu made, but... this one's just sort of the same as what he sounds like in Burning in Hell, or Final Stretch, or Whoopee, or Boondoggle. There's not really a change here, it's kind of more the same. I guess he's just here to complete it all, right? Because Mike Gino had to finish the song, so Sans had to be here anyway. And yeah, Sans' chromatic does sound good, as it usually does. The overall melodies here are decent. I like the opening quite a bit due to it fitting Sans' character, and then it just sort of keeps on going, and I don't know, it's alright. Not much to say, just good. Cuphead joins in, which is kind of neat. And there's this little guitar solo, which, yeah, I like it. It's good. It's a bit random, but it works. And then after this, we get into my favorite part of the song, Bendy's phase. Alright, so Bendy's new chromatic, I was complimenting his old one, but nah, his newer chromatic is not only so much more fitting, but it's so good. It works really well, and I love it a lot. And the melody here, kind of taking a page out of Imminent Demise's book, really works. And then it sort of just falls right back into, well, more of the same of what Crossed Out already was. Look, I'm sorry, but biggest criticism for Crossed Out, it gets so repetitive so quick. I know that's not popular to hear, but it really does kind of feel, more of the same. The parts that stand out to me the most are the first few, I guess 30 seconds or so of each character's phase, because they end up sounding the most unique parts of the song, and then the rest of it just sort of blends together. Bendy's phase is my favorite of Cuphead, Sans, and Bendy because, again, I do love his new chromatic, and it sounds really nice. The instrumental, though, is just more of the same. And then we get Cuphead, Sans, and Bendy all joining in together. I mean, yeah, this is a good part of the song. I mean, there's really not much to say, it's just all three of them singing together. It's good, it works, the instrumental is at its best here. But, I mean, it's just more of the same. And I don't just have a problem with its repetitiveness, I also have a problem with how it's structured. Cuphead really doesn't give off any of that tune style that I'm used to, that good old swing melody. Sans doesn't feel very Undertale-like, and Bendy doesn't have that orchestral feeling. This song feels standard in that it's just doing what it needs to, but it doesn't take advantage of what makes each of these characters unique in the context of Indie Cross, which is definitely a shame. Alright, now that I've talked about Crossed Out, that is the end of it. We're done talking about Friday Night Funkin' Indie Cross. I like a lot of this mod. It is really good. I guess, for the most part, there's a lot more potential here than what was fully reached, and I am excited for version 2. Really excited. There are some teasers that I've heard that I have quite a lot of thoughts on, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, because again, I don't know what is and isn't going to make it in the final version of version 2 Indie Cross, but I am very much excited for it. It so far is already looking really good. The potential for this mod is straight through the roof. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. So, tell me in the comments below, what are your favorite songs? This is easily one of the most divisive mods. People could like any song from this mod as their favorite, and it's understandable why. You might disagree, but again, every song here, except Sinus, has its bonuses, it has its moments. So, I'd like to see what you guys think. And what songs do you not particularly like? I know a lot of people are probably going to be upset at my opinion on Despair, but like I said, I like the song. That's just how it is. It clicks with me. Some songs do and some songs don't. Now, here is my tier list. Just to show that, yeah, most of this mod is pretty good in the end. And I already have a feeling that if version 2 of Indie Cross can do anything, it can take this mod and make most of its soundtrack S tiers or above. It really does have all the groundworks. I'm just hoping for the best. And we'll see what happens. In the meantime, I've got to go ahead and rank myself a daycare death trap. See you guys in that video.